That should do it. Should open now.
Okay.
Greetings, miners, queens, and ice warriors, to the 140th episode of an Unearthly podcast, streaming live on the 6th of January, 2016. Happy New Year! And featuring The Monster of Peladon by Brian Hales, starring John Pertwee as the Third Doctor, and with Elizabeth Sladen as Sarah Jane Smith. My name is Randy Ronson McCulloch, and with me is Mad Matt Winchell,
Mesozoic Mind.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke,
Cold.
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Dude.
We are, of course, still waiting on Bill, Man in Black Sylvia, who has been delayed at work and will be joining us as soon as he can.
Thankfully, he promises that there will be only a couple more of these before his school sets in and his work cannot keep doing this to him.
So, let's turn our attention to the news, of which there is actually not that much. So, the first thing we do is we always talk about birthdays. We only actually have a couple of big name birthdays. First one is a happy birthday to Deborah Watling, a.k.a. Victoria Waterfield from the Second Doctor era, who turned 68 on the 2nd of January. I'm not sure how much you all remember Victoria.
I've seen a few of her stories.
She was relatively new in Tomb, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
It was also Evil. I believe we see Evil of the Daleks? Or
that was her first.
Yeah.
Evil, I believe, was her first. Because Power was
like
Troughton's first. Power was Troughton's first.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah hasn't really been up to much. Other than doing some Doctor Who audios. And the last thing she really did was the Five-ish Doctors reboot, so not really anything there. But happy birthday anyway, Deborah. Also, a very special happy birthday to Rowan Atkinson, who you might know as the Ninth Doctor from The Curse of Fatal Death, but probably better know him as Mr. Bean or Black Adder. Rowan Atkinson turned 61 today on the 6th of January, so happy birthday, Mr. Bean.
Wow, he's pretty young.
Well, if you think about it, most of his stuff has been within like the last 20 years.
Kinda.
Maybe 30.
Yeah, closer to 30.
Yeah, he's mostly from the 80s and 90s, I believe. Like mid to late
Mr.
80s.
Mr. Bean was 90s. It started in like 91 and then lasted through 98. And I don't know that much about Blackadder. I've seen bits and pieces, but never anything coherent, so I don't know anything about time dating it.
All I know is that one episode they had Tom Baker as a ship captain, and it was hilarious.
I'll have to look for that at some point.
Whoever gets off the ship last gets a lick of the cat. And everyone looks at each other seriously, like quickly starts running.
I don't know if Rowan Atkinson has done anything recently. I know he was in the 2012 Olympics in the opening ceremonies.
At some point. I remember that much too. As a matter of fact, I got a spy movie double packed with Mr. Bean the movie somewhere around.
He did Johnny English Reborn a few years ago.
Ah.
I think that was actually supposed to be a decent one, or the Johnny English one was supposed to be decent.
I assume both of them would probably be decent. I mean, it's Rowan
He did a Snickers commercial last year actually year before last now. I got to get used to that, as Mr. Bean.
Oh.
And really, that's really about it. He's mostly just been kind of cameo appearancing and stuff because he can.
Because he can, and he's probably living high off the money he's already made on those 2 shows anyway.
He shows up for Red Nose Day. He did show up for Red Nose Day 2015 to do Mr. Bean's funeral as Mr. Bean. So yeah, happy birthday, Rowan Atkinson. I hope it was a good one.
Speaking of ghosts, Bill is ghosting in on our news feed here.
Oh?
Oh my.
Oh, he's
11 minutes in and we're only on birthdays, huh?
Uh-huh.
I thought you'd be halfway done with the podcast by the time I got here.
Well, first of all, it's only 11 minutes in, and we were delayed 5 minutes because I actually had to finish writing the news.
So anyway.
Yes.
Anyway, we're go from births to deaths, of which, again, we have none.
Yeah.
Hooray!
We're on a winning streak here.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm a little worried about that because, I'm afraid it's saving itself up for something big.
And it's just going to drop like a lead anvil.
Don't leave us, Tom. We love you. All right, so we're going from there to our episode news, and we have a couple of pieces of episode news. Take it away, Aaron.
All right. First off, the Husbands of River Song final ratings are in. So we've got, it had about 7.69 million viewers. This includes everyone who watched within 1 week of transmission. The top-rated show was ITV's Downton Abbey, which jumped 4 million in time shift to reach 10.92 million. The BBC's highest was Mrs. Brown's Boys, which reached 9.49 million.
So, some impressive numbers there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, Doctor Who just suddenly surged up to the top there because freaking reality TV took a backseat like it oughta.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much reality TV on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it sounds I think there was I thought there was a Strictly Come Dancing Christmas special or something, but probably not anything huge. A lot of people are watching Christmassy special kind of stuff, so still a lot of this came out in time shift, which is kind of interesting. People were watching it on later rebroadcasts. Possibly because they were spending more time with their family on Christmas, but still.
Yeah, Boxing Day as well.
All right, so we go from one piece of news to another.
Yes, the previous episodes. Well, there are not many previous episodes because we're out of the season, but BBC 4 showed a repeat of the classic 1977 serial The Face of Evil with Tom Baker, which introduced Louise Jameson as Leela. The repeat started strong, getting 141,000 and 183,000 its first 2 episodes on Monday, only to have a sudden drop to 56,000 and 88,000 for the last 2 on Tuesday. No reason was given for the drop, but the AI for the episode ranged between 83 and 84, which made it more liked than the Christmas special.
I still can't believe they only gave that Christmas special an 82. Bastards. So that really covers the previous episode news.
Actually, speaking of previous episodes, there was one piece I had put onto the news that's removed. Was that intentional or?
No, I didn't remove any news piece.
That's weird because it's not there now. I'm going to send the link into the chat. But basically, BBC America will be rebroadcasting Series 9 starting January 30th. The reason this is news is because they're before each episode, at least as actually it might be during. Okay, actually it appears it might be during the episodes. They have what they're calling doctor's notes, which is various social media information as well as behind the scenes facts, fan art, comments, things of that nature.
Pop-up video style, if anyone remembers pop-up video.
God, I miss pop-up video.
I actually thought that this was intended to be before the episode, but rereading the article, it sounds like that's going to be popping up during the episodes.
Which is why I'm not going to be really watching it or paying any attention, because unless I'm deliberately watching it for pop-up video stuff.
Yeah.
And if I'm trying to watch the episode, it annoys the hell out of me.
Right. Yeah, and I was actually more excited for this when I thought it was something I could look up on YouTube after the fact.
No, they're doing it right on the episode, so that's a little more meh. Yeah, I think I remember reading that and dismissing it myself, but I didn't see you post it in the news. Maybe that particular version didn't get saved.
Maybe there was some sort of glitch, because I've noticed my internet has been kind of wonky lately. I don't know if it's because of the switch to the new provider, or just because of the whole crowding of the bandwidth with people home on break, or what.
Don't know. You do have Comcast, so I tend to blame them for most things.
Right.
They're Comcastically bad.
In my experience, their internet was always good. It was just their customer service that was terrible. But it's been a long time since I've had Comcast internet, so I have no idea what it's like now.
Anyway, let's move on. Our next news is award news, because once again, it's award seasons. And once again, Doctor Who is on the short list for the National Television Awards in Britain. The competition this year includes Downton Abbey, which is actually in the awards for the first time, Broadchurch Series 3, and Casualty, which is now in its 30th season. In kind of semi-related news, David Tennant has been nominated in the Best Drama Performance category for his work in Broadchurch. He faces up against Suzanne Jones from Dr. Foster, Aidan Turner from Poldark, and Sheridan Smith from Blackwork, all of which are shows I am not familiar with.
So, meh.
The fact that I haven't heard of them even mentioned on, possibly coming to BBC America or anything, means that Tennant may actually have this one hands down.
Oh, probably. Probably already a shoe-in.
I hope. I mean, that's not going to be Tennant's first nomination, I think, or even his first victory. Yeah. He was nominated during his Doctor Who run. So, but he is a remarkable actor. If it wasn't an American production, I'm sure he might have gotten. He probably will be nominated for something with Jessica Jones.
Probably.
He is creepy in that.
Yeah, he is pretty creepy.
All right.
Now that the teleprompter is done, Bill's actually typing the news as I'm reading it, or trying to read it.
Oh yes, I was making an adjustment to it. I was just about to make sure you saw that.
All right,
yeah,
awesome.
I had to write these out because Bill, before he did the news, only left me with the links, and I had to try to write the articles in like 40 minutes. I didn't realize it was that it was empty news until like right before we were broadcasting.
Uh-oh.
In defense of that, I wasn't too worried about it, since there were like 5 articles, although Bren managed to find news out of the clear blue sky that I'm actually curious how he found that, so I'll be looking into that.
What, the Big Finish news?
Yeah.
I go to bigfinish.com and I click on news.
But it's not under Big Finish /news. I'm looking there now, and that information's not there.
What's new?
What's new?
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Dun.
That's where I have not looked before. Okay.
Nah. All right, so moving on to contests. You can win copies of Series 9 Blu-rays. Cultbox is hosting a Twitter contest to win Series 9 Part 2 and Husbands of Riversong on Blu-ray. If you are interested, you need to follow @Cultbox on Twitter and retweet to enter. Winners will be picked at midnight on 26th of January. Note that the information they include tends to lean toward the idea that these are Region 2 or Europe-only Blu-rays, so American and other fans will only be able to play these if they have a European or Region 0 player. So, just so that there's not any unfortunate surprises.
All right.
Yeah, nothing would be worse than actually winning the contest and then finding out that you can't play the Blu-ray.
Or like that time that I got a movie off
That
of
would
eBay.
totally suck.
Guess what country I found out that was from?
I don't even want to know.
Not. All I'm saying is I was Asian, and I'm not buying DVDs from eBay anymore.
That's just
Yep.
like when I was looking. That's like when I was looking for a Phantasm DVD, and for months all I could find was Region 2, and I finally found Region 1, and it wouldn't play on my DVD player at the time. I had to play it somewhere else.
Huh. I got my copy out of a secondhand store. Works perfectly on everything. There's a special edition too.
No, actually, at the time, my DVD player. Well, generally, my DVD player is my PS2, and just for some reason, some DVDs it doesn't like.
Never had that problem.
Anyway. Moving on.
Yeah. Are we going to move on? You keep playing around in the news doc.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I was just making that one change. Although my cursor might be moving around, but that's
It is moving around.
I
You might
see
want to
that-
get it out of Tim's face.
Your cursor.
Sorry.
Get your cursor out of my face, man! You open my business!
Is that
Okay.
better?
Yes.
Yes.
I can see your color flashes.
Alright, now we have some sad news, or potentially sad news. Are you sitting down? Peter Capaldi is considering his final season. According to Cultbox, Peter Capaldi is considering making Series 10 his final series. Nothing is in stone at this point, but he told the Telegraph, "This could be my final year. It's terrifying. I love Doctor Who, but it can be quite an insular world, and I do want to do other things. There will become a time when this is over, but I knew that when I started." He added later, "I was thinking about my regeneration scene from the outset. That's my terrible, melancholic nature. When you accept the job, you know there will come a day, inevitably, when you'll be saying, goodbye."
I like to imagine that he was strumming his guitar during that, and then he did a big flourish as he said goodbye.
If he decides to leave, it will make Capaldi's run a tad short in comparison with Tennant and Smith's run, which, while only having 3 series each, had additional specials that lengthened their run to about 4 years.
Yeah, that's Tenet 2010 or Tenet 2006 through 2009, 4 years.
2005, if you count the brief scene at the end of Parting of the Ways.
I'm not. I mean, technically 2005 because Christmas 2005 was technically his first episode.
Yeah, it was
But-
Christmas to Christmas.
Christmas to New Year's Day, wasn't it?
Yeah, but if
And
I
then-
say Christmas to New Year's, it makes it sound like he was only the Doctor for a week instead of
'Cause he
5
was.
years.
Well, Christmas 2005 to New Year's Day or New Year's Eve 2009, and then Matt Smith took over for 2010 through Christmas 2013.
Yep.
And now we've had Capaldi from August 2013 to now considering his last season in 2016. That's a little short compared.
Of course, it's nothing compared to Paul McGann's run of first appearing in 1996 and then not regenerating until 2013. But
I was really only comparing him to the New Who Doctors, of which I was also ignoring Eccleston's 1-season run
yeah,
Yeah.
because we all kind of
So-
look at him sideways on that one.
and yes,
But
I'm aware that Paul McGann only had literally those 2 appearances. I was making a joke.
Yes, but if you look at it another way, he started in 1996 and he ended his run in 2013.
Yes.
That's the other way of looking at it. That makes
Right.
him one of the longest running Doctors. All right, so we're going to finish our news. It's, of course, a new month, and Big Finish puts out a bunch of what's being released this month. So first on the list, we have The Waters of Amsterdam, which is in the Doctor Who main line and is featuring Peter Davison, Sarah Sutton, and was it Tegan in that one too?
Janet Fielding, yes.
Janet Fielding as Tegan, yep. That one has been released already, but they also put out episode 1, which is available for free download from the Big Finish website. Basically, reunited with Dr. and Tegan. Tegan joins them for a trip to Amsterdam's Rick Museum to see the new exhibition of the work on Rembrandt van Rijn featuring his drawings of vessels of the stars. The Doctor is astonished to discover that they are designs for spaceships that would actually work and decides to pop back to the Dutch Golden Age for a quiet word with Rembrandt. But the world-weary artist is in no mood to help. Meanwhile, strange forces are swirling the canals, creatures from ancient myth, the watery goblin-like Nyx. What was their connection to the mysterious Countess Macteldak? And to the events of Tegan's life during her year away from the Doctor. So this sounds like it's immediately following Arc of Infinity.
Huh. I was actually thinking that was her first season uniform, but I guess not.
No.
If that's the case.
And damn you, Bill, for including cult box links. Cult box links immediately make my JavaScript go nuts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know why you have so many issues like that.
I don't know. It just I switched computers and it's still doing it.
Every one of us has a different weird computer problem. It's like Skynet's out to get us.
So yes, this was released this month, and no, that's definitely Tegan in a more common outfit instead of her air hostess outfit.
It was
And
the coloring that threw me off.
But as for Nissa's outfit, I really can't tell if that was previous or later. So also coming out this month, we have Gardens of the Dead, which is another Fifth Doctor. Turlough has joined the TARDIS, the Snake in the Orchard, and is trying with limited success to gain the other's trust. But when they land in the Gardens of the Dead, the whole team, Nyssa, Tegan, and Turlough, will have to join forces and fight together to keep the Doctor safe and discover what's behind the very last door in the TARDIS. So
that one's a monthly short trips narrated by Turlough.
Okay. And it sounds like it's taking place during the Black Guardian series. Huh,
yeah, if all there seems to be a lot set in the middle of the Black Guardian, just because that's the only time you have that trio.
That is because Sarah Sutton left in the middle of it in Terminus.
Yeah. And Turlough was introduced at the start of the trilogy.
Yep. So also
that's just like all of the Mary Tam audios are set in the middle of this epic story arc on screen that takes these random side trips for Big Finish stories.
You know, you could have spaced some of that after the Key to Time series and before the Romana regenerated.
That's true, and there are some that might fit there, but I know some are definitely even say that they're randomly in the middle.
Okay. Which is really kind of a weird place to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But you kind of have to because, I mean, Romana joins at the beginning of the series.
I think the way they justify them is basically they're looking for the next part of the Key to Time, and instead a wacky adventure happens.
Oh, of course.
Well, those wacky adventures.
All right. Also due out this month is the Churchill Years, which we have talked about before. That is not out yet, but it is due out shortly this month. And that is a 4-part series, all featuring, of course, Churchill as seen from Victory of the Daleks and the Wedding of River Song. The first part, The Oncoming Storm, late 1939. Second one, 1949.
1941.
Or 41, sorry. That was my brain misfiring. The third one happens in the TARDIS. And meeting Julius Caesar. And then the final one is in his retirement.
Yep.
So that's due out. That's going to be 29, 39, pre-order CD and $20 digital.
Which seems to be the standard pre-order prices for these box sets of this size, because that's the same prices that they had for the War Doctor set.
Still tempted on that one. Okay, moving on. We have Torchwood, Uncanny Valley. That's the 5th in the first season of Torchwood specials. That's due out this month for $14.50 or $8 digital download. What has made billionaire Neil Redmond emerge from his long seclusion? Captain Jack knows the answer and is prepared to go to any lengths to prove it. A couple of years ago, Neil Redmond was in a terrible accident. His recovery has been long and slow, but now he's back and looking better than ever. Much better than ever. Dark forces have been behind Neil's transformation. Dark forces that Jack has been hunting for a long time. But Captain Jack's never able to resist the darkness. Written by David Llewellyn, directed by Neil Gardner, and of course having John Barrowman, Stephen Cree, Emma Reeves. It looks like that might be kind of a Torchwood prequel, because that doesn't look like the rest of the cast is involved.
Yeah, each one of them is by a single actor. And there is the fact that one of them is featuring Yvonne Hartman from essentially prequel episode, so they do seem to hop around the timeline. I did actually manage to listen to The Conspiracy. I'm actually trying to get Windows to show me how long it was, but it seemed to be essentially, or at least it felt about the length of a single Torchwood episode, except focused on a single member of the team instead of the entire team, although the other members were mentioned. Here we go. Let's see. 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 15, 19, 25, 30. Okay, so it's about an hour long without actually sitting there and doing the whole math. So I think Torchwood episodes are 40 minutes, so it's basically a Torchwood episode.
Okay. All right, so also out this month is the ISOS network. This is a second Doctor adventure featuring Fraser Hines doing the voice of both Jamie and the Doctor. It is the Doctor, Jamie, and Zoe are leaving Earth after having successfully defeated a Cyberman invasion. The cyber fleet is still exploding, but something is escaping through the mass of vaporizing debris. In hot pursuit, the Doctor and his friends find themselves drawn to a mysterious planet where strange beasts slither through the streets of a deserted city, and an old enemy lurks beneath the streets. As a force of heavily armed aliens arrived, a battle to save the entire galaxy from invasion begins.
What's really throwing me off is that this cover includes both the Tomb Cybermen and the Invasion ones.
Yeah, I'm thinking they're throwing them out there. It does not include the voice of the cyber leader.
Mm-hmm.
But it's using Nick Briggs as the Cyberman, which I'm not sure if he's using his Cyberman New Who era Cyberman voice. I'm going to be a little disappointed in that.
Nick Briggs is also used even when they do 10th Planet Cybermen for Big Finish. It's still Nick Briggs.
Yeah. Okay.
Except for when they bring in, I think some of them might bring in a seperate leader, but I think 99% of the time it's him.
I think if they use the cyber controller, they actually get the guy that played the controller. Because it's been the same guy every time in Classic Who when they used him. All right, so the final piece of Big Finish release news is the brand new 4th Doctor adventure, the beginning of his 5th... God, has he already done 5 series for Big Finish? And that is Wave of Destruction with Lala Ward. A modulated frequency wave cancellation signal isn't something that the Doctor and Romana expect to detect in 1960s London. But then they don't expect to find Professor Lanchester, the man who invented it, lying unconscious, or MI5 investigating. With the help of MI5 agent Miller, Lanchester's daughter Jill, and his nephew, a pirate radio DJ named Mark, the Doctor, Romana, and K9 investigate. They soon discover that there is more at risk than they imagined, and an alien invasion is about to begin. Can the Doctor identify and defeat the aliens in time? Will Romana manage to find a recombinant transducer before it's too late? And how will K9 cope with his new job? And again, that's Tom Baker as the Doctor, Lala Ward as the Romana, John Leeson as K9, and a cast of everyone else in there.
And yeah, it looks like he's done a series starting in January every year since 2012. So this would indeed be the 5th year, although it looks like he's not doing all 12 months like the monthly range. Looks like he does about 8 months a year.
Nice. And that's pre-order for $16.15 CD and $9 digital.
Still, 8 times 3.
That's still more Tom Baker. Can't say no to that. And that really does it for Big Finish and our news.
Yep.
Anybody have any other personal news they want to come up with?
I figure I'll give my very, very, very brief summary of the Sherlock Christmas special is it was okay, although not worth the amount of hype and the amount of time, people interested in Sherlock have waited for the next episode. The main drawing point was it was able to borrow more heavily on the mythology due to the gimmick of the episode, with part of it being set back in the past. I don't know if you want to spoil how that happened or if anyone cares or not, but
that's okay.
It was okay. It wasn't like nobody was blown away by it. It was basically just another episode with that extra thing.
Just kind of.
It was just one of those things.
I had seen a trailer, or not a trailer, a poster for it at Point Cinema.
That's right, because I think it was this weekend that it was in theaters.
Don't look at me, I didn't go.
I wouldn't mind going to see it, but...
Yeah, I don't think I could sit through it.
This episode I don't think was good enough for theaters. I think anybody who did go to theaters was probably disappointed because this was not one of the best episodes of the show.
Yeah, I've tried to watch Sherlock before and I've failed, so heck, I can't even seem to focus on watching Game of Thrones.
Oh, I did actually start watching that. I've watched 3 episodes. I'm watching it a little bit more slowly than I would be because I'm trying to write notes and do short commentaries to post on my blog with each episode, which I probably will be starting to post on Monday.
I've been trying to catch up.
I'll probably be watching episode 4 after we end this podcast.
I've been trying to catch up with it, but every time I try to watch it, I get distracted doing other things.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
I'm trying to catch up before season 6 starts. So.
It was like I tried to catch up and watched it, and I wound up watching Bill Maher, like the entire last season of Real Time. Yeah, I know, political.
That was a bit fun.
And then I was going to do it again today, and then got I realized I could set up a server to play off my PS4 so I could start watching Doctor Who again on the PS4. And then I got stuck watching some anime that I have sitting on my hard drive. I'm like, awesome.
That's cool. As soon as you said Bill Maher, I immediately pictured Bill Maher and Bill Nye fighting with those American Gladiator Q-tip things.
Well, Bill Nye has been on Bill Maher. He's been on Real Time at least once. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
It's really weird to see him like that because, of course, he still looks like ever, and it's like, wow, since you've been around, Bill, bow ties have gone into style and then out again.
And
You're
then
still
again.
wearing them. No, he wasn't around when the bow ties were originally in style, but he was wearing them before Matt Smith's run, and now that Matt Smith's been gone for a couple of years, so the bow tie craze is going out, he's still wearing them.
Yeah,
Looking-
sunglasses and guitar phrase.
There are still a lot of bow tie fans, largely because Peter Capaldi doesn't have a favorite neckwear yet because a hoodie doesn't count, and he doesn't always wear that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Come to think
Yeah.
of it, I think Peter Capaldi wore a bow tie at some point in his most recent
A
episode.
couple times, yeah.
He wore it, but he wore it with a tux.
Yeah.
He wore it with a fine suit, so it wasn't
Although
really.
Tennant also wore a bow tie when wearing a tux, so.
Yes, when he wore his tux, it was always with the white tie.
Yeah, I noticed Peter Capaldi doesn't seem to have a set outfit.
Yeah, he's really drifting around a bit.
Yeah, I mean he's got the suit with the buttoned collar but no tie. He's got the hoodie. He's got the guitar.
He's got the holy
And-
shirt.
And no fangirls. He's not wearing just the guitar.
God damn it.
Ew.
What? He's not that old.
He's as old as Hartnell was when he was the Doctor.
Eh.
But much healthier, thankfully.
Hmm
Yes.
You've tanged it so far, I've had to literally do a Google search for bow ties.
Wow.
Well, technically, we're out of the news. We're shooting the breeze.
Yeah.
That's killing a little bit of time before the 5-minute challenge.
There is a new Rick and Morty game coming out.
Oh yes, I heard mention this recently.
It's based on Pokemon. Or
Okay.
it's a Pokemon parody.
I don't know if I want to ask this or not, but what is Rick and Morty actually? Because I've heard people talk about it, but
It's a cartoon parody of Back to the Future that kept pushing it and pushing it to see if they ever got a cease and desist and never did. So they just went bonkers with it.
Yeah, basically the main character is Rick, a scientist who's kind of like Emmett Brown meets the Doctor. I say this because while Emmett Brown was kind of restricted to Adventures in Time, Rick does time and space, so becoming more like the Doctor in that case. Except he's an asshole.
and Morty is a play on Marty.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Marty!
More.
Yeah, it started out as a fan film where I believe if Marty wanted to travel with Doc Brown, he had to suck him off or something like that. It involved oral intercourse.
It's Adult Swim, so it is, that raunchy Adult Swim level of humor.
I was talking about the original fan film that the TV show is based off of.
It still is raunchy Adult Swim humor, Aaron.
Mhm.
Bob's Burgers still is technically that. It's just a little bit toned down because that was on, Fox.
To be honest, the main thing I remember watching from Adult Swim is Inuyasha.
Well, that's technically that wouldn't
That's
even be adult.
everybody.
Welcome back to my time, Bill. High five.
Technically,
One
that wouldn't
thing
even
on-
be Adult Swim anymore because that's Toonami, which is William Street's anime block is now Toonami.
Adult Swim, I remember, is home movies.
Yeah, and the guys from Home Movies graduated into doing other shows. One of them went through and did Metalocalypse, and
That's
the
right, I
voice
think
actor.
Adult
became-
Swim might have had the uncensored stand-up, right?
They might have.
Since Cartoon Network, for some strange reason, doesn't want to show cartoons.
Well,
Oh no, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I think I'm mixing up late night Comedy Central with cartoon. Those were the only two channels I watched in high school, and I watched them constantly, switching back and forth.
Of course, that was also the time that sci-fi was slowly starting to take a dump.
Yeah, anyway, we are really getting off topic here, so
I thought our topic was shooting
our
the
topic
breeze.
was
That the
wasting
point.
time.
yeah.
Yeah. But now we're really wasting time.
But there's so much there's only so far out of the field you can go.
We're no longer wasting time. Abort!
No longer wasting time. We've still got a full hour and almost 20 minutes.
Let's go ahead.
Although that said, I don't know if I'm doing the summary or not, but if I am, there's no way it's going to be in 5 minutes because too much shit happened in this episode.
I could probably do
Okay,
it, but
so
anyway.
let's move on to the 5-minute challenge.
Shall we? Okay.
Yes.
Do you want to do, or was that a volunteer to do the summary, Bill?
That was, if I'm expected to, I'll do it, but it won't be 5 minutes. Because I know it's been a while, but if someone's volunteering or thinks they actually can, please go ahead.
Did you say you wanted to, Matt?
I said I could probably do it.
All right, let me pull the stopwatch up then.
I'm trying to remember what was
So,
that
buddy-
one-eyed thing's name again? I'm trying to remember names. My brain does not.
Alpha
Alpha
Centauri.
Centauri.
Alpha Centauri.
Alpha Centauri. Okay, that should be the one main thing I think would.
Calling it the one-eyed thing does not help with what it's mainly compared to.
Well, that's what it is.
Well, it could be worse. Just don't put trouser snake after it, Bill. Because it looks like a penis. All right, are you ready?
The verboids look like a vagina. Alpha Centauri and the verboids should meet. Anyway.
The offspring would be horrific.
Wouldn't it be, though? Okay, I'm ready.
All right. Summary in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
We catch up with the Doctor as he's apparently decided to purposely visit Peladon for the first time in a long while. It turns out that as he lands, it is about 50 years later, and the previous king's daughter is now Queen of Peladon. And she is experiencing some issues as she is trying to bring in some more modern equipment. And as they do so, the spirit of the Beast of Peladon seems to be suddenly appearing and attacking people at random, not only just killing them, but also dissolving their bodies, and sending all of the miners into a frenzy. As they continue to try to figure out what's going on, and most of them starting to believe that there must be some sort of trick behind all of this, the Doctor finally shows up, is wrongly caught by the guards, believed to be a possible imposter alien trying to do these attacks, and is brought before the Queen before he reveals himself. And also in the nick of time, Alpha Centauri also walks in, now still apparently still on the planet, and now higher ranking now because of a change in outfit and extra lines on its head. Alpha Centauri notices the Doctor immediately, and they start to okay the Doctor to start investigating as to what's going on. To which he does help some of the miners who are starting to rebel, but also doing so because he feels that they are rebelling due to the fact that they've been having very bad conditions given to them despite doing the mass majority of the work for everyone else. And also being the main victims of the enemies trying to make the uprising happen. To which Sarah Jane also intervenes once in the mine and comes across someone apparently lurking around where the refinery is. She manages to finally convince the Doctor to head there, and upon finally breaking in, finds ice warriors, just as Alpha Centauri had ordered in help from the Federation to help deal with the situation with the miners. The Ice Warriors are apparently their go-to warlike group, but oddly enough, these Ice Warriors seem to be here rather fast, and have already started blocking any transmissions off the planet. They continue to use some very brutal and unliked tactics, to the point that almost everyone who was warring against one another has actually become all on the same side, in that they want to get rid of the Ice Warriors and bring peace back to Peladon and get things rolling again. To this, they finally do stage an uprising against the Ice Warriors, managing to make the mines hot enough that the Ice Warriors can handle it, and attacking them and slaying a huge amount of the men that are already there. They manage to push them out, but however they also have plans, not only to cut off the air and make it stale and unbreathable down in the mines, but also inside of one of the main refinery is also the machine that has been making the fake Beast of Peladon to attack the miners. The Doctor manages to sneak in after the leaders have left to try and check on things back on the main palace, and starts using the weapon of their choice against them, to the point that they realize what's been going on, and also try to use one of the traps set within the refinery to try and kill the Doctor. However, he is able to mentally control himself to the point of collapse, but was able to help clear the path for the miners to try and take over the palace once again and bring things back around, and finally force the Ice Warriors out, also slaying their leader. At the very end, however, the human that was running the refinery and all the other technology was actually one of the main traitors as well, and they also have to chase him down, save the Queen from him, And also, in a gripping final fight, the Beast of Peladon and this man are slain at the very end. The Doctor finally gives his farewells, and he and Sarah Jane then leave.
You did that in 4 minutes, 9 seconds, almost 10. By the way, great way of completely skipping the character of the High Priest / Chancellor.
He was
And-
not that. He wasn't
and-
even main story. He was padding for the story.
And the violent miner who tried to blow up the Citadel.
Again, he was partially padding. The main course of the story is the dealing with
And
the
you
Ice
almost
Warriors.
didn't mention Erickson until the very end.
I couldn't even remember his name. I couldn't be bothered because he was not much of a character other than
Or
Blandy
Eckersley,
McBland's
yeah.
face.
Yeah.
How did I
Eckersley.
forget Eckersley? It's the same name as one of my favorite pitchers.
Mm.
Guy was
yeah,
a role
that
model.
was one of
Again,
my
you
things.
have to slim these things down, otherwise you will be sitting here for 10 minutes just trying to describe the story.
That
That's
was
kind
my
of the
issue with
point.
making the title card. There's 9 main characters if you include the Doctor and Sarah Jane here. This is a very dense story with a ton of main characters.
Which is why it's a 5-parter.
It's a
All right.
monster of a story.
So,
On that pun, and before we go on to our likes and dislikes, open question for you guys. Is it just me, or does it feel like this one should have been called Curse of Peladon, and the previous one should have been Monster of Peladon?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I hit that, and I'm watching this one, and it's like, well, the last one's all about the monster appearing and killing people, and here it's just a projection. This one really should have been the curse.
I'll bet Brian Hales thought of that like 5 minutes into writing it. It's like, oh damn, I already have a show called Curse.
Yeah, well, it's like, the monster only actually appears twice in this entire bit. Once when the Doctor and them are thrown into the pit, and then once at the end where he's used as a bloodhound.
So Sarah
Yeah.
Jane is and them.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Well,
it's-
I think my joke after watching it was that the monster of Peladon is Sarah Jane's snark.
Oh, come on though. You got to love Sarah Jane.
Yeah. Although I
thought the
have to
Monster
say
of
that's kind
Peladon
of funny
was
because I remember at some point way back in the Flynn and Fireheart days, someone had said that Sarah Jane is the only companion that just shuts up and does whatever the Doctor says. And then I
And I'm
watched
like, bullshit.
and then I watched this episode and I'm like, the exact opposite.
I thought the Monster of
She
Peladon
gives
was
lip
Alpha
for
Centauri's
every
voice.
single thing that comes out
The
of his
thing is-
mouth.
Sarah Jane is very independent and lippy during the Third Doctor era. It is the Fourth Doctor era.
I feel like in this episode she mouths off as much as Rose and Amy combined, with a little bit of Donna thrown in for good measure.
Yeah, she doesn't lip off as much as Donna. Donna was like Sarah Jane turned up to 11 in the mouth off section. But really, if you think about Russell T's interviews and stuff, Rose and Amy were all loosely, very, very loosely based on Sarah Jane. Russell T was on record as saying that Sarah Jane was his favorite companion. Tennant was on record saying that Sarah Jane was his favorite companion. And I think Moffat has said that too. At least of his favorite classic Who companions anyway. So the mouthy, lippy companion, they're all thinking of Sarah Jane when they're writing it.
Hmm.
And it really comes from this.
I also like looking at this. I kind of wonder if Tegan and Ace are kind of based off of Sarah Jane as well.
Well,
A little
I'm pretty
bit.
sure that JNT was always trying to get that level of popularity back to the show. This era, this season and the 2 seasons that follow, the early Baker seasons,
Yeah.
these are the height of Doctor Who. It goes up, and
It's a little
pretty much-
scary when you consider the effects of this season.
What do you mean?
Toy dinosaurs,
But they're the height not
Toy
because
spiders.
it's because of the character interactions.
Yeah.
I mean, Doctor Who has always had bad special effects in its classic
But
era.
especially in this season. I think this season takes the cake, but I think it's also just because of
I don't know.
the stories
Bill.
were about 1,000 times more ambitious than the budget, is what I think happened.
I don't know, Bill.
But
the
the
start of the
characters
next
do pull it
season
off.
had toy tanks and a robot that was halfway see-through when it was huge.
And green
and-
bubble wrap.
Yeah, I was going to say, and the monster in
And the
the
bubble wrap.
cereal after that was made of bubble wrap.
Yeah.
And then from there you go to Daleks, which were there's at least a standby for them. And from there you went to Cybermen, which is another standby for them. And somewhere in there was Santarans, which was another standby for them. So,
Although this season did introduce the Centauran costumes. That's where they blew the budget.
pretty much, yeah. Okay, so let's go to our likes and dislikes overall. And pulling up my window, I see that Matt is once again in the lead.
How am I never in the lead?
Because you originate the call. You're the one that originated the group, so you're number one with a bullet.
Even when you start the call, he's the lead.
Oh, I start the call off the group now, so.
Yeah.
You know, one of these days I'm going to randomize it. I'm going to remember to bring my dice up from the car and roll a d4. And it's just going to be like, Aaron, you're up first. But
Right.
I don't have my dice with me, so.
I should actually just pull out my dice one of these days. I have them right there. So the thing I really liked about it. So, actually, for considering its age and considering how bad some of the other effects we just mentioned come up, the effects with the supposed spirit of the Peladon monster, those were actually pretty well done blue screen effects. I would assume they were blue screen.
Probably.
Those are some of the best blue screen effects they ever had.
The projection.
The projection and all the effects that it did too.
Yeah, those actually,
Mhm.
considering all the criticism I just gave of the effects, I think that was pulled off
That was
pretty
pulled
well.
off really well. And I would also add that the visual and the sound effects of the Ice Warrior guns worked out really well too.
I can definitely say that the Agador effect did not age as poorly as an effect that they would have done in the RTD era would have aged, because they would have gone for something a bit more ambitious and something that would have aged pretty badly. Whereas this, was, I mean, I guess it was probably ambitious for the 70s, but was subtle enough that nothing really aged poorly about it.
Yes. They didn't go too over the top and didn't make it too psychedelic. It
And
was just the right spot.
And
Whereas
considering
compared to some other effects, which are very psychedelic.
which, considering this, I think is only their second season playing with blue screen overlay. Because I think they got it their 10th anniversary season.
And they were pretty rubbish at it still.
All right, Bill, what did you like in general?
I think I'm going to go with Queen Thalira. Partially she's just an extension of King Peladon from before, but she has a somewhat different arc in that it's, there's different reasons. She's an attractive young woman that actually has her own agenda. She's not trying to become a companion, which is rare for such a woman in Doctor Who. Or, she's not hinted to be a companion or anything of that nature. There's nothing companion-like about her. And I don't know, seems very good when she's on screen. Not that she's absolutely perfect. There are some nitpicks you could, or probably even actual legitimate issues about her, but I don't know. I felt like she improved the episode.
All right, Tim?
I like the hair. Hair, like it reminded me of what if Wolverine was in Flock of Seagulls?
Oh, you're talking about the miners.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting there. I'm like, the hair. Okay.
Oh, God. that two-tone hair. If you look back at the
Yes.
original one,
And when-
you look at the like the high priest in the first episode, he also did have that two-tone look, but this is taking it to another
Yeah, they
another
probably,
level.
they probably took
Peladons
that. They're
have
like,
that,
well, what should the
but-
miners look like? Well,
Oh.
we've got this hairstyle here. Turn it up to 11.
Yeah, all the Peladons have it, but yeah, in particular the people that are doing the mining.
King
It's
Peladon
like-
didn't. He was blonde.
Yeah.
No, he had some red in
No,
there.
he had it. He had it. And if you look, the women have it in reverse, where there's a white stripe going through red hair.
So the rogue look.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
Although there's also the fact that all of the
Yeah.
miners
you-
have that
if you-
same fro-like hairstyle, which just emphasizes it so much
That's
more.
because they ran out of budget. They ran out of budget. If you listen to the behind the scenes
Okay.
footage, they actually describe how they were kind of running short on budget, so
they
they
couldn't
wanted
afford
to
pruning
make-
shears.
it was actually kind of like a foam or like something like that they, not foam, but like it was I don't know, they like spray painted
Essentially a
it.
huge amount of
Spray
gray
on hair.
But yeah, pretty much they spray painted it, and it was like actually a pretty toxic spray paint. The hairdresser commented that it probably would have been illegal to do it this day and age. They wouldn't be able to do it.
No wonder all those actors are dropping dead of cancer. Just saying.
Yeah.
Let's just cover them over with toxic materials. It's not gonna kill them or anything.
All right, Aaron.
Yeah, they're only
Yes.
miners.
What about you? What do you like?
That was kind of her thing, is that she seemed to save the cheap effects for the low class characters. So she wanted the higher class characters to have a more refined and polished look to them.
Who is she?
Although,
That was kind of interesting.
how were they running out of budget?
I don't know. It's just what it said in that budget
No.
was tight, and they had to come up with something to do for the miners.
Because the Peladon set was all reused from the previous serial.
Although redressed.
Assuming it was not taken apart in the 2 years in between.
I was looking at it, and unless they rebuilt that set identically from the old one, they were reusing the set.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, if they had to rebuild it, they did a good job. But it wouldn't be the first time that they've had to, or at least wouldn't be the only time that they've had to do that. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything one way or
Like I
the
said,
other.
they
about
had
it.
to redress it though. I know they definitely repainted it.
I mean, the Alpha Centauri costume had stuff added, but was the same essential costume.
Right.
Ice Warrior costumes were the same as we used previously.
Although they had one weird one with a really clunky head. I'm not sure why.
The one that looked like he was way too small for the head.
The one that essentially looked like a bobblehead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed that one, but yeah. So, and most of the rest of the miners' costumes, everything were easy to come by. I wouldn't have thought those would have been budget breakers, so I don't know what was costing them so much money, unless it was just the entire season in a nutshell.
It could
Yeah,
have been
'cause
the
this-
entire
I mean,
season in a nutshell, but
it-
also you have to think about how many extra people they had to costume for the story. They
I mean,
had. I'm
It could
actually.
be
I'm looking
something
right
as
now.
simple as the vehicle montage at the end of the season that cost them, that they had to save up for.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have filmed that yet. They wouldn't have known that was coming up.
Still, you also had to dig out all the Ice Warrior costumes and also make that new helmet, which just looks absolutely ridiculous.
I mean,
So I'm
look
glad
at
they
this,
only made
look
one.
at this season. You had the Time Warrior, which, yes, was probably relatively high, although it was really only the Santaran outfit that would have there, and you only needed one. Everything else that was needed was medieval.
And that was probably just lying around.
Invasion of the Dinosaurs, which they used plastic dinosaurs. So I wouldn't, the fact that you could have gone out to Woolworths and come out with a whole bunch of plastic dinosaurs that they used. I wouldn't call that a budget
this is
breaker.
the first scene in a while where they've had to use a whole lot of. I mean, the first season in a while where I think they had to use mostly new sets rather than using mostly the unit set.
Well, the Time Warrior, basically you rented a medieval castle. There's a bunch of those around. I'm not sure what was all needed for Invasion of the Dinosaurs.
Lots of miniatures and a
okay.
couple of set builds.
The city and the Exelons in Death to the Daleks might have been a bit expensive. And that was the serial just prior to this one.
Okay, yeah. So that probably helped put a crunch. And then you got this new number that's coming up that has a ton of people, and you need all new costumes for all of those miners. And then you have to make a new one for the new queen. You could just shake off the ropes from the previous guy and just put it on the new guy for the Chancellor. You had to dig up all the Ice Warrior costumes and probably retouch them.
I don't know. Those were probably used in the last Peladon one, so.
They were, but I can tell you that I know there's been paint jobs going around on everything, and paint doesn't come free.
Okay, so Aaron, what was your favorite?
My favorite was actually the continuity that kind of carried over into this serial from the previous one. We do get to see Alpha Centauri. We do get to see the effects of the passage of time over Peladon, being part of the Federation. I keep wanting to call it the Republic. The Federation. Things are still kind of slow and moving, but Peladon also seems to be fairly primitive.
Erin, by the way, has been spending her week watching Clone Wars and Rebels, so that's why
Good
she's
for you.
having why
so
she's having a
catching up on
father.
Rebels.
Are you caught up?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not caught up yet?
She's into the second season,
I
but
have
I'm not
2
sure.
episodes left to go. Yeah, I have 2
Gotcha.
episodes left to go of Rebels, and I'll be caught up. I'm on episode 9, I believe.
That's fine. Then you can watch
Of
the episode of
season 2.
Supergirl that you're actually behind on now.
Yeah.
And you could actually watch the Doctor Who Christmas special, which you haven't watched yet.
No, because you keep poo-pooing River Song, and now I'm just like,
Yes, but I've actually said I liked this episode.
that scares me even more.
Be afraid. Be very afraid.
All right.
What are you planning?
So, what I really liked was how very well done the characters, the new characters were done. The miners seemed authentic. The queen seemed very authentic. If the Chancellor / High Priest wasn't well written, he was well acted. Let's face it, the guy that played the Chancellor High Priest could have played the Master, I think. In fact, very much seemed like the Master from Fatal Death. The way that he talked with his eyebrows. That was a very well acted.
And that was a somewhat tricky role in the sense that, you know, he's intended to come off as the villain while obviously not being the main villain, but only the distraction villain, while not actually being, you know, evil in and of itself, just being, you know, there for doing his job, and a kind of complex character.
Yeah, he was
especially
meant to
for
be the
time
red
period.
herring. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turned out that he wasn't. He was just overly zealous. And very mistrustful of aliens. All right. But yeah, I found that character to be well written. I found the miners to be well written. Because they each kind of had a distinctive personality, at least of the main ones.
Yep.
And that made them kind of worthwhile.
I mean, I think the worst written character is still one that was my second opinion for a good thing, just because he had a very interesting arc, even though it was kind of a caricature, which is Edis. He goes from, being slightly to the extremist side to being insane and paranoid. But even
Yes.
still, it's a very interesting look, a very interesting arc, and interesting to watch.
All right. So, what didn't you like overall? And we'll start with Matt.
I have to say, for everything, I think my biggest nitpick is, in particular, the what they call it, the laser drill, the laser lance. I think
Sonic Lance.
Sonic
yeah.
Lance.
Doctor Who, it's Sonic. Everything is Sonic.
That thing looks pathetic. They tell us it's some sort of lance thing and it's gonna improve mining. Okay, let's have a look at it. It's a fan with a lightning rod and some extra lights behind the camera that help it light up. Boo.
Well, if it had looked like a radar dish, would that have been better?
Dude, if it looked like a Simon Says, it would have been better.
All right. I didn't think it was that bad, but
I believe this thing was not a horrible weapon for a moment.
Well, it wasn't intended to be a horrible weapon. It was intended to be a mining device that also
Mining device
happened
that
to-
could still double as a horrible weapon. Either way, it was the thing that could do a lot of destruction to a solid object. I could not believe it for a moment. As soon as it walked out set, I'm like, well, that's barely hot glued together. Just,
all right.
Ugh.
After all of the effects that we've described just in the past 20 minutes,
That
I
prop.
don't think it was as bad compared to any of them.
Ugh.
All right, Bill, what about you? What didn't you like?
I am going to go with, you mentioned how good the new characters were written. However, there was one returning character who has no character arc, is still a coward, and actually should have had something to say in the women's lib subplot, but Alpha Centauri is still just a coward.
Except Alpha Centauri is not a woman.
No, but it's a hermaphroditic character that still stands out amidst the mostly male cast and could have had I'm not saying necessarily be specifically that, but could have had something to say in that whole situation in terms of being unique compared to, the male characters.
Yeah.
Or even any sort of character arc saying, "Oh, I've been in dangerous situations before, so now I've grown some balls." No, absolutely not.
Actually, I beg to differ there. We did not have one case in writing this where Alpha Centauri went into hysterics. Remember
This
the
is
big
true.
issue that Alpha Centauri had in Curse?
This
where
is
they would
true.
start babbling so much you couldn't hear the other characters for over the babble? There was not one instance in the entire 6 episodes where Alpha Centauri started doing that.
Oh, that's entirely possibly because Barry Letts turned around and said, if that happens again, somebody's getting hit.
Actually, it would have been Terrence Dix.
Terrence Dix would have had just had the job to erase.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Terrence, could you just erase a couple of lines from
I'm-
that particular
I'm-
character
I'm-
right
I'm
here
not-
and right
I'm not-
there?
I'm not saying Barry couldn't have threatened to hit Terrence.
Actually, those two were fairly close. So if they had threatened to hit Terrence, it would have been more of a friendly thing.
I was going to say,
But-
it's not like nobody in this panel has ever threatened to hit one another. I'm sure you've never threatened. I'm sure you've never threatened to kick anybody that's on this call.
We're all complete professionals here.
Yes.
I will murder you!
Oh.
Sometimes I imagine that at the viewings table you do the Homer choke on Matt.
You have to catch me first.
I hate to tell you this, Matt, but that's probably not that hard these days. Then again, I don't move that fast myself, so. I'll stick to
So
throwing
who's
objects.
next?
It would be Tim. What didn't you like, Tim?
I didn't like this series seemed to have over reliance on my least favorite stereotype and in fiction of all time, which is disbelief. Too many times someone said, "I don't believe you." It's like, oh, the miners and the soldiers are working together. I don't believe you. Believe
Yeah.
you.
I understand what you're talking about. I think it was.
At least
like-
the queen believed that there were tunnels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as bad as the last serial.
Dum dum dum.
But it just is like every time I notice this in a TV show or movie, I think, why is this here? This does nothing but slow down the plot and.
I get you, because that's one of the things that tends to annoy me, especially since I watch a lot of slasher movies where that's like the #1 trope. That said, are you mainly talking about Edis with his paranoia, or are you talking about somebody else as well?
I'm mainly talking about Edis, and also the
Chancellor.
the Ice Warrior guy. Guy is like there's a scene where Sarah Jane says, "Oh, the doctor went this way," and he says, "I don't believe you." A minute, like 5 seconds later, he sees on the monitor, "There's the doctor." "Oh, right, you're telling the truth." Okay. It's like, well, that was entirely pointless.
Well, I think at that point it was him saying that the doctor went to go stop Edis,
Yeah.
and at that point, he was saying, "I don't believe you," because he was convinced the doctor was working with the rebels to destroy them.
I mean, there's also the fact. I mean, I do get what you mean. But there's also the fact that he was looking specifically for ways to undermine the doctor's credibility. So if he could just say something negative about the doctor and not have to prove it, all the better for him. Because he was pretty much there to take over and kill anyone who disagreed with him.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Tim, I can summarize your entire problem with this with one song.
Okay.
Essentially, it parodies a pirate shanty, and the lyrics go like this: "Slow the plot down, laddie, slow the plot down."
So, Aaron, what didn't you like?
I didn't like the fact that they rehashed a few of the characters, but the one that annoyed me the most was the the giant mute.
Oh.
We need another mute strongman. Fortunately, or perhaps unfortunately, he dies almost immediately.
Yeah.
Well, I
Apparently
think
they grow them.
Apparently, the king or queen's guard gets his tongue cut out or something upon becoming the king or queen's
Yeah,
guard.
because Grun had the same situation where he couldn't. Like, he obviously could try to speak, but he couldn't actually speak.
And they take the biggest, probably clip him too, so he swells up as a eunuch. Cut out his tongue so he can't say any of the king or queen's secrets, and that's your king's guard.
Although, if this serial happened in the 60s, he would have been black too.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, probably. At least then, even without a tongue, he could look at you and go, "The Uncola." Oh. So, my least favorite thing is that the base plot of the story was pretty derivative of his last story. You have...
And that's the main complaint I see, but I actually didn't see, and I know you're just about to explain that, but yeah, go ahead, because I'm actually not.
You have the new ruler, unsure of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You've got
that arc, yeah.
You've got the high priest who seems to be assuming the role of the ruler. Mm-hmm. You have, I mean, the other parts, a lot of the other parts are pretty there, but are somewhat new, but that whole plot line seemed to be recycled. True. And it's like, what, you really can't find a different subplot? I would have loved it if the main issue, you came in and the high priest chancellor actually would have been the king. or been acting as the king because they wouldn't have let the woman rule.
Right.
And and part of the subplot over the course of it was overthrowing him, and at the end of it, putting the proper queen in her throne.
Or even if she sat in the throne, but she wasn't allowed to say anything that wasn't approved by him.
It was just, it would have been different enough that it would have been a little more interesting rather than we've seen this role before.
Oh, speaking of things that were derivative, actually, I was starting to wonder, why is it that all of the monarchs die when their children are young, yet there's never actually a change of hands of the throne?
Yeah.
Like, who's killing all of these kings and not taking over?
Apparently Agador.
It's like,
goodness.
Are there just a lot of incompetent rebellions happening where they'd last just long enough to kill the king, but not long enough to actually, overthrow the government?
It seems kind of weird, yeah.
It's a dark plot.
So that was kind of my big deal. Also, the fact that the entire subplot, the entire end thing was to exploit mining, was once again the same thing. It was just kind of Eckersley playing the role of what was his name in the other one? The head in the box.
Arcturus.
Arcturus. Yes, thank you. That was kind of also kind of a little bit derivative. Anyway, so scene that you liked, Matt.
Alrighty. Scene that I liked. I really ought to start listing these down just so I can quickly summarize. Actually, I'm going to go off the top of my head, and I'll say the first time we see the supposed spirit of Agador, and watching it attack, that's a moment that will stick with you from the story in particular. Just such a really good effect, and despite the age of this, has not aged that badly at all. It's kind of like the one weird laughing creature from Ultraman. There's like this really evil creature from the original Ultraman series that has this really deep, creepy laugh. It's one of those weird images that will stick with you forever.
All right.
Choice.
Bill?
I'm actually going to say the scene where Eckersley does not wants to keep the doctor out of the refinery, but it's too late and he really can't say anything without tipping his hand. Especially because one of my big complaints last week was how it was a murder mystery with no clues. Whereas if you're actually paying very close attention to what Eckersley does, you can start to get the idea that he's not on the up and up. Which is a nice.
I think starting around episode
like.
2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For sure, by
Like
the end of
it's not obvious and in your face. Like I missed it the first time, but if you're watching it and you're actually paying attention to what he does and in response to other things, you can start to realize he's acting suspicious.
Yeah, I actually had him pegged, but.
I was actually kind of surprised at how much he looked like a young Tom Baker in some of the scenes.
He sounded like a young Tom Baker.
He still had the curly hair and the toothy grin, although it's not quite toothy and it's not quite curly enough.
He's evil Tom Baker.
Yeah, pretty much.
He actually reminded me of another British actor from Blake 7.
I was going to say that too.
He looked like Tarrant from Blake 7, but the timing's wrong because Blake 7 wouldn't be for another 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was Donald Gee, by the way, who unfortunately does not have a Wikipedia page.
Don't.
So whose favorite scene were we up to?
Tim's.
Tim.
Oh boy. My favorite scene is when the Doctor does a coin trick to impress the guard. Like, just the way John Pertwee's eyes bug out, like, hey, look at this! Woo! And the
Yeah.
guy's like, voodoo! Voodoo!
And then he just goes. Then he just turns around and goes, "Oh, hi, Gebek."
Yeah.
Earth's like, "What?" All right.
At first I thought he was gonna, like, use the coin to hypnotize the guard or something, but no, it's just
He semi-hypnotized him.
Yeah.
I actually kind of thought that was going to be another Damn It Joe scene, but it wasn't, which actually just made it funnier.
All right, Aaron, how about you? What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene is when Sarah Jane walks in and on the supposedly dead Doctor's body, and you can actually see that she's been crying, and it does feel the scene has a decent weight to it. Like, we know he's not dead, and obviously and everything, but it's still I don't know. It still made me kind of tear up a little bit myself. Just like her reaction to everything was so genuine feeling, and you really did feel like she was heartbroken that she, just was lost and wouldn't know what to do if he died. So.
Well, the thing is, you got to look at it from Sarah's term. He's dead? No, he's not. No, he's dead again.
Mm-hmm.
She literally lost the Doctor twice within the course of half an hour. That's got to do something pretty bad to you.
Where in the season is this serial?
This is the second to last serial in the bit. This is right before Planet of the Spiders.
So then she loses him again.
Yep.
Yeah.
She just has a bad luck on that.
All right. My favorite scene was the actual ending scene, where they're just about to take off to the TARDIS, but Sarah keeps going on like she wouldn't want to leave the Doctor to his career as Chancellor, and wouldn't want to get this. And you could almost see Pertwee start to shudder at the thought of being stuck as Chancellor. It's actually perfectly done, and she's just being biting sarcasm. He's like, "Get in the TARDIS, you TARDIS now." It just hit me. I was laughing when I watched it.
Yeah.
All right, so your least favorite scene.
Ooh.
Matt.
I picked this one out the first time I watched it, I think.
I have to say, while most of the scene is good, in particular the first time when the Ice Warrior's in the throne room, everything looks really nice, everything's being well acted, and then you just see this dopey looking Ice Warrior in the back. Has this huge head, and he completely distracts you away from everything.
Do you happen to have a picture of that by any chance?
Oh god, I think I've seen him a couple of times in here. But seriously, I don't know what it is about that one particular Ice Warrior. He has this ginormous head. His body looks fine, but his head is just so huge and so
my
goofy.
reaction was the exact opposite. His head looked fine. The rest of him looked dinky. It was like they had gotten a big guy to play the Ice Warrior, but he got sick, and they could only find the skinny-ass dude to go in the Ice Warrior suit.
Well, you see, they put Chris Evans' head, and then they green screened somebody else's body.
I'm trying to look for it, because I've seen him a couple of times in here while I was going through stuff. But every time... That was the first time? Here we go. He's hiding in the shadows in this one, so they're trying to hide the fact that his head is so small. Actually, he's not any shorter than the guy next to him, and he's not any less bulky. He just has this really awkward helmet. Anyway, chat, there.
Let's see this guy.
The guy on the right.
The guy in the far right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not the one I was thinking of.
No, that's the one I keep thinking
of.
The giant eyes and the huge head.
I mean, the eyes are so big you can tell
the
they're
one
made
next
out of
to him
orange
seems
plastic.
like his head is too small.
That one's a little weird too. But the one in particular on the right just rubbed me the wrong way every time. And I saw him several times.
The one I'm thinking of was the one that they left on guard at the refinery.
Ah.
At the end.
I think it was the same one. Big clunker head. Yeah. Like I said, they try several times to hide the fact that this is obviously one that just does not match up at all with the rest of the Ice Warriors. But he just sticks out like a sore thumb every time.
That's probably an original Second Doctor Ice Warrior helmet. They couldn't afford to budget a new one and just grabbed one.
But then why do the others look so good?
Because they were redone for probably Curse of Peladon.
Because they look the same as the Second Doctor ones too, though, is the thing.
I mean, at the very least, I assume they spray painted them all because I doubt that they were all
in perfect
green.
condition. Yeah, no.
Yeah, and they were originally used for black and white serials.
If you look at the Second Doctor Ice Warriors, there were a couple of them that had the big, huge eye pieces, so probably it was one of the classic helmets. And that meant it wasn't actually structured to suit the person.
Yeah, more so than normal. Oh, here we go. Here he is. Here he is, like, immediately in the background, too. You can just see him there in his big, dumb orange eyes right behind Alpha Centauri there. Like, half his mouthpiece is orange, too.
That actually came up with a list of pictures, Pat.
Oh.
Yeah, but at least for me, it did open up on the one that he had been viewing.
Okay, it finally did there, yeah.
There we go. That ugly orange tinker in the background.
Okay. But so moving I'm after Matt, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. My worst scene, there's 4 or 5 people in this room standing around talking, and one miner with a sword comes in and somehow manages to hold up the entire room, even though he has his back to half of them, and nobody except the doctor thinks, hey, maybe we should take his sword away from him.
I don't think it's the fact that he was the only one.
At all.
I don't think it's the fact that he's the only one. He's just the only one that's actually properly trained to do that without.
I don't care how trained you are. If there's like 3 of you against a guy who has his back turned to you, you can do something about it. Like, he was facing one person next to the doctor, and then there were like 2 or 3 people right behind him, and I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, he should be sprawled out on the floor right now. Even assuming nobody there had a gun, which, considering I don't think, like, I'm like, okay, I can believe nobody had a gun, but I can't believe that nobody thought to, hit him.
I don't know. That didn't actually bother me that much. I mean, because one of the people is Alpha Centauri, who actually has absolutely no concept of dealing with violence. One of the other guys is Eckersley, who's probably just waiting to see how this all comes out. One of the other people is Sarah, and who is the who is the 4th person in the room?
I think it might have been them and the doctor.
So really, of the people that would take action, it would either be Sarah or the doctor.
Oh, here we go. There's actually a really good picture of it, although the eyes are no longer in it. It's a picture of a whole bunch of other monsters.
We're talking about a new scene, and you're still looking for pictures of that one.
No, I'm just scrolling through, and all of a sudden there's the Ice Warrior with these gigantic dummy eyes, and I know that look.
All right,
so
Tim
next.
Tim, yes. What was your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene is the scene where Eckersley reveals that he's the villain, because he seemed kind of underwhelming. Is like, especially or the scene when like he has the doctor trapped in the room with the thing is like, I can turn on the alarm inside as well. Okay, I did. You know, you need to relish those moments when you have
Yeah.
the hero trapped in a.
He's not exactly what you would consider to be a Bond villain, though.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could. If he was a Bond villain, he would be relishing in that.
Or it. Could you imagine Anthony Ainley in that scene though? That would have been some
That
Right,
glorious
you're not,
panel.
Doctor. Right where I've always wanted you.
Yes, and Ainley and Delgado would have both hammed that scene up for all it's worth, but this person wasn't actually the that type of villain.
Yeah.
Speaking of when Eckersley was revealed as a villain, going to the scene a little earlier when we first find out, what seems really strange to me is that the Ice Warrior, is at enough level with Eckersley to, speak with him as an equal, you should do this, yet Eckersley somehow has enough leverage over him to be like, yeah, if this goes south, you're taking the fall and I'm getting away unscathed. So I'm like, how exactly, like, that part didn't seem very well developed, and that we really have no idea what their relationship is or how they fit together.
Well, except we know that the Ice Warrior was very hinged on honor and had put his on the line in this. So for him, this is, as kind of a with his shield or on it. So that just might have been a pre-existing statement between the two.
I remember my reaction to when Exley said, "I will become the most powerful man in the galaxy or the universe, or because I will be the ruler of Earth." It was like,
really?
How does ruling Earth make you the most powerful man? I mean, is Earth all that significant in the grand scheme of things?
Oh, please! This is Doctor Who. The Earth is the most important planet in the universe. That's why every alien keeps trying to take it over.
At least it's not DC, where it's the most important planet in the multiverse. That was a little groan-worthy when
for the Santarans, it's of strategic value. I'm pretty sure the Daleks want to take it these days just to piss off the Doctor.
Pretty much, like they just wanted as a trophy. Took this from Doctor.
We stole the Earth and we've replaced it with a gigantic middle plunger. The Cybermen, of course, sees it as a source of new Cybermen, since they decided to assimilate humans. Every other alien wants something. The Nestine wants the pollution to breed new Nestine. Everybody seems to want the Earth in the universe. For whatever reason, it is the most important planet. So he who controls the Earth controls the universe. Yes, the Earth is the spice. The spice is the Earth. Okay. So I think we are up to Aaron. What your least favorite scene was?
It's not the worst scene of all. It's just a little kind of goofy. The Lance manages to drill a hole into the collapsed wall, of which the Doctor's on the other side, and makes a hole that's just big enough for the Doctor to jump through, just as the stone statue is attacking. And of course, the Doctor kind of rolls down the pile of rocks on the other side, which makes for a convenient slide, I guess. So I guess it's not the worst scene, but it's a little bit too, well, what a coinkydink.
I don't know. That was kind of standard 70s action fare to me.
Yeah.
The Doctor tends to pull these out of his ass by sheer dumb luck.
Yeah,
that's kind of how he works.
Mm-hmm.
I've always waited for the day that says, "Oh, don't worry, stupid shit like this works for me all the time." Because it does.
By the way, sorry if you heard anything on my end. Cat came in and there was a bit of an issue with the cat.
No.
Ah.
Unless it barfed on your microphone, I don't think we can hear it.
It had a bit of a mess on it. And it's like, nope, 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 nope.
Okay, so my least favorite scene is about any scene with that hokey mind control or hokey mind alarm thing.
Oh, the psychedelic effect.
Yes. It's like, this is supposed to drive me insane. Okay.
I like the pretty lights.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, it's giving me a slight headache, but not really,
Well, that's a representation of it, not the actual thing. If it was the actual thing, you would have, it would be Alpha Centauri going into hysterics.
You know what? I actually found Alpha Centauri less annoying this time around.
Yeah, that's kind of what I said earlier
Yeah.
about the fact that you didn't get the Alpha Centauri hysterics.
It feels
So
like they've revamped the costume too, maybe.
Oh,
The
they
head a
did.
little bit?
They did, because it was a really simple robe the first time, and then it's more elaborate this time, and then they added veins to the head, which makes it look even more like a penis.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, if they'd had a third appearance, that it's like at old age, Centauri has a split on top of the head that occasionally oozes white fluid.
Yeah. That was like the doctor was like, "Oh, and you too, you haven't aged a bit." I'm like, "You're that guy that goes into the nursing home and tells the old ladies that they look at the same as they did at 30."
Yes. Him and Alucard, apparently.
Although to be fair, looking at modern Who, it's entirely possible he just can't tell the difference.
It's possible, but then again, that's one of the things about modern Who that actually bothers me a little. At least Moffat Who is, the Doctor was, at least had a level of tact with dealing with humans throughout most of his life. And then suddenly we get to the 11th Doctor and he's like completely forgotten how to deal with them at all.
The same thing happened with the 6th Doctor.
Nah, he was just too self-absorbed.
Yeah, I'm like his level of tact is about the same as early 12th Doctor. So,
but it doesn't come from a non-understanding of humans. He's just way too self-absorbed.
Oh, that's the comparison we were making last week, Matt.
Yep, just found it.
Yep. Yeah, by the way, did the Agador prop seem a little different?
They definitely did some extra paint work, I think, on the face in particular.
Yeah, I imagine since it's been used for a few action scenes that there was some wear and tear.
Also, apparently, if you look really closely during the final fight sequence, you can apparently see the boots and the trousers of the outfit actually accidentally break on screen and fall away from each other. But again, it's like lower body and probably not in more than one quick clip of the section. So yeah, that was probably its big last run.
I just think, in my opinion, I liked the Agador from Curse a lot better than I liked the Agador in this one. It was more believable.
I think
and that says a lot.
It's just repainted, so maybe the paint job didn't do too good for you.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm just like, wow, that doesn't look half as convincing as the other one did. Especially when they brought Agador out as the Hound. It's like, yeah, I can really...
From behind, it looked almost exactly the same to me.
So, anything else that you want to bring up with this episode? We have a few minutes.
Well, I suppose it is worth mentioning. I think this is this is more along the line of, rather than being a political point, of what we speculated last week's was, where goings-on in politics kind of inspired the story, but the story was, wholly took its own direction. This was during the time of a miners' strike caused by a private sector wage increase gap in the UK, which eventually came to negotiations and did end up with miners getting raised. But I doubt that it's a coincidence that the story written and filmed during a writer's strike. I mean, during a miners' strike is about a miners' strike.
Yeah, it seems a little too coincidental, but at least it was putting a fair spin on it.
Yeah.
It also seemed to be a little bit anecdotal to the Industrial Revolution.
And again, the reason for this strike, kind of like last episode, the reason for the event is entirely different from the real world ones that were going on in Britain at the time. So while the idea of, hey, let's make a miners' strike because of this miners' strike might have been a thing, there's no way it can tie into any sort of resolution or analog to the real world event.
Yeah.
It was not a war going on in Britain.
Yeah, and the illusion I was mentioning is, of course, the fact that many miners in the Industrial Revolution saw new technology as cursed and unholy.
Luddites.
Yes, the Luddite movement. And while the miners here weren't as bad, they did seem to have some Luddite leanings.
Especially when they were encouraged to do so by the projection of Agador.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a name for a cereal for you.
Projection of Agador.
Yeah, you get the X of the Y going there. But yeah, so I'm wondering if he not only took from this, he took a little bit from the Industrial Revolution stories, and he kind of hoped it would evolve out into its own, but it didn't really. He kind of hoped it would just spring out like it did in the revisions of Curse, and this one just kind of stayed the course.
Apparently.
I know this episode does get some criticism over the fact that last week we saw the reformation of the Ice Warriors, not being the villains, and helping the Doctor and everything. And this episode kind of semi-reverses that by all of a sudden now we have a breakaway faction of evil Ice Warriors again.
Yeah, that was a bit of a disappointment to me.
Probably because I was already expecting it, it didn't bother me as much, but I feel like if I had gone into this blind, I probably would have had more of a reaction to that fact.
I actually did go into this blind because I had actually not seen this season before.
Good grief.
I'd seen... Well, I've said that before. This particular season of Doctor Who, I've seen The Time Warrior, I've seen Death to the Daleks, and I've seen Planet of the Spiders, and I've missed the rest of it. I missed it every single time it was on frickin' TV. So I am going into these blind because I've not seen these before, and for some reason, the only book version I had was Invasion of the Dinosaurs, which apparently was written a lot better in the book than it was for the actual TV episode.
And I bet the book didn't have that stupid gimmick of trying to hide what the monster was and just calling it the invasion in the beginning, even though we had already had an episode and a serial by that name already.
No, the book called it the Dinosaur Invasion. Instead of the invasion of the dinosaurs, it was the Dinosaur Invasion.
Which is fine, but when episode 1 of Invasion of the Dinosaurs tried to hide it and called itself The Invasion, and it wasn't until part 2 that it gave the full title.
Yeah, that was a little much.
Like, we already knew, we had the episode named The Invasion back in season 2. We had a serial named The Invasion back in season 6. Obviously, this isn't The Invasion. Just give us the damn title.
Or maybe you shouldn't use it. I don't think they use Invasion anymore after that, so hey.
The Invasion of Time, which we'll be looking at later.
Yeah. Speaking of time, it is about time to go to our final thoughts.
Oh, boy.
So, Matt, your final thoughts on Monster of Peladon.
As a follow-up to Curse of Peladon, I'd say this is a pretty solid one. Costuming has improved slightly, but then again, most of it's dusting off and repainting it. Same with the sets, of course. There's a lot more effects in here that actually work than don't work compared to last time. Also, while the Ice Warriors being the villains again is predictable. It's still nice to know that this is only a faction group and not like what we should regularly think of the Ice Warriors. This is just a one-off moment. The actors did a splendid job with everything they were given, including silly, clunky props and a couple of costume flops here and there. And overall, I think it puts up a pretty decent presentation, especially for the 70s.
All right. Bill?
I had heard quite a bit of bad press about this episode, and I was really expecting it to be terrible going into it, especially the idea that it was much, much worse than the previous because of being essentially a rehash of it. And altogether, I'm going to say that having watched the episode, I find most of that to be pretty false in that I enjoyed this episode significantly more than I did the first part of this duology. And, I mean, Sarah Jane might have been responsible for that, but Joe wasn't terrible either, so I think it's just a superior story. Altogether, fairly good serial, even if it was a bit longer, but there was enough story for it.
All right. Tim?
I liked this episode just as much as Curse of Peladon. Had some good points. Like I said, the main problem was the disbelief all the time. But I don't think it had any like horrible flaws. And this is the first time I think Sarah Jane. I'm starting to see the point of Sarah Jane, actually. Because the first episode series I saw with classic shows with Sarah Jane, I was thinking, I'm watching her, I was like, okay, she's okay, but why does everyone rave about her? About her so much. It's like, why is Sarah Jane Smith the be-all and end-all of companions?
I think we really need to actually have a period where we sit down and see a lot of the episodes of this and the early Baker ones to really get you to have that objective view.
Yeah. But I'm starting to see in this episode.
All right, Aaron?
I thought this was a good carryover from Curse of Peladon. It really reinforces the passage of time, as I've stated before, and also reinforces the idea that the Doctor's not just the space traveler, he's also traveling through time as well. We get to see the effects of the events in Curse of Peladon carry over. I also enjoyed seeing the difference between Joe and Sarah Jane. How they react to different situations, or in fact, how they react to very similar situations, and also just a general expansion of the universe that the story of Doctor Who takes place in. That Earth isn't just the only, the only world. It's not the center of the universe, I would say. Well, it is for the Doctor, but
it's not the only planet that he gives a care about.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, it's an expansion on the mythos of Doctor Who. We get to see an expansion on the Ice Warriors. They have their own kind of civil conflict going on. I don't even know, does Galaxy 5 show up in any other Doctor Who stories?
Not
Yes.
Gamora. Oh, it does.
Galaxy 5.
Oh, isn't
Galaxy
that
4.
the new Who one?
Oh, that was Galaxy 4. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine then.
I mean, I did hear Galaxy 5, and I thought that was a reference to the fact that there was Galaxy 4, but since I haven't watched Galaxy 4, I wasn't really able to make that judgment. But I figured that there was some connection there.
I
That's
don't know.
something to keep in mind for later. It does kind of play upon, was it the Frontier in Space, where we had kind of a similar delegation with the Draconians, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah, because there were supposed to be some diplomatic relations going on between Earth and the Draconians, and I just feel that those types of stories, and it's very similar here too. Only it's after the fact, after everything's said and done, they've signed with the Federation. Um, that it really helps bring together a lot of a varied cast of characters and an interesting story.
All right. Well, unlike most of the rest of you, I found the plot to be a little weaker than the original story, finding it to be more derivative than anything else. But at the same time, you get some amazing acting, some fairly decent special effects, and you get the Doctor and Sarah, which I do find to be a more enjoyable romp than the Doctor and Joe. Um, this does set the precedent of coming back to visit where a planet you've been to before, something that would come back later in New Who with the End of the World New Earth series. New Earth. And that's kind of an interesting way to see where that originates. All in all, I enjoyed this. I'm not sure I enjoyed it more than Curse, but I enjoyed it. All right, let's go to voting. Matt, what would you rate this episode?
All right. So overall, it's definitely an improvement over last time, and I believe last time I gave it a 3.5.
Correct?
I would probably place this at least a 4.
Four
It's
flat?
It's not perfect, but it's definitely getting much closer. Yes, a 4 flat.
All right. Bill?
I think a 4 is a little generous. Actually,
Again, you were a Lobby last time, too.
yeah, I hadn't considered giving it a 4. I'll reserve the right to think about it, but I'm going to go with 3.5.
3.5. All right.
Which is still a 1 point increase, a full 1 point increase over my last score.
Tim, you were the generous one last week with a 4.5. What do you give this one?
It balances out to about the same, so I'm going to give it a 4.5 again.
All
or
right.
not again, but this time, you know what I mean.
He's still giving the same score.
Yep.
Mhm.
Aaron, last time you gave it a 3 flat. What are you giving this time?
I'm actually going to give this one a 3. Actually, I think I'm going to give this one a 4.0.
All right. And I am going to give this one a 3.5. I liked it better than Peladon, but not that much. Or the Curse of Peladon, by not that much. And that takes it to a 3.9 average.
Which is well above average and almost good.
Which will place us... Data sort. And put Monster of Peladon at number 61 on our list of 136 episodes currently reviewed.
Well, for the top half.
Yep, it puts it just below Blink. We're actually tied with Blink, which is considered to be a very well-liked episode, but not as well-liked by us. Just below Attack of the Cybermen and The Runaway Bride. And just above Ghostlight and Enemy of the World. And so that's our final standings for Monster of Peladon.
Yep.
So if it's right next to Enemy of the World, that's a pretty good rating there.
Yeah, you thought we were going to hit some lobies on this one, Bill. It looks like you got wrong.
Yeah, definitely the what I had read about these episodes definitely led me to think that we'd be having some, twin dilemma level averages here.
Oh no, I actually have seen these. I will say this has been at least my second, if not my third time through these. I like these. There are flaws, but they're not spectacularly bad or anything. There's definitely no twin dilemma.
All right, so take us out, Bill.
Okay. If you enjoy listening / watching us, please like the video and subscribe if you'd like on twitch.tv, youtube.com, and mixcloud.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow on Twitter. I don't know. I forget what Twitter does nowadays, to be honest, for news and updates. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast. And don't forget to join us next week as we move into a new series of episodes, starting with Vengeance on Veros by Philip Martin.
Dang it, I wanted to do that because I was also going to mention I will be turning 40 live on the podcast next week. My big 4-0. So please join us live.
Alrighty. Other than that, I think that's a wrap. Good night, everybody.
It'll probably be my last week of showing up after the podcast starts because my boss doesn't like to comply and give me Wednesdays off.
I may already be 40 by the time you show up.
Bill's taking too long. Do you have a knitting kit? Anyone for a game of chess?
Although if you show up